Appreciated. Not only I think am I banned on airlines, I'm not allowed in the US stock exchange. I think I'm still banned from France as well. A couple of other countries. It's good fun. I mean, it's good fun. We are recording this, aren't we? Yes. I'm in the UK. The FBI can't get the evidence. It's even better. Yeah, some fucking fun. All right, so standard normal disclosures with any kind of presentation I give. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this one. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. As I said up front, Boom Supersonic. I'm also a researcher. I still keep a fairly technical mind, and we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff in there. I'm a father, primarily these days to Great Danes. I have 3 Great Danes, and they're pretty amazing. I'm still a geek, and I am a hacker. Have been for many years, still am, and get annoyed with everybody in marketing and sales who blames us for crying out loud. All right, quick agenda. I've got, 25, 30 minutes? We have 60 slides, so in your ears back. We're going to have some fun with this. So we're going to be nice. I'm going to start off nice and friendly. We'll be civilized and all this kind of good stuff. Then we're going to have a conversation about why we have to have this conversation. Set the scene, have some fun with this. A little bit of annoyance with the industry. We're going to blame a few people, including us, and we'll go from there. So, let's start with the civilized. Well, everybody gets a pat on the back. We've got to be nice with everybody at the moment. Because in more cases than not, you have, all of you, ticked the boxes. Not only have you ticked the boxes, you've been listening to people here. You've integrated your security teams efficiently into your organizations. You've passed your audits. You have put the tick in the box. Congratulations. You might even have good security people and you use SFTP. Which means you feel good about yourselves. Nice, warm, fuzzy, and good. Everybody's put the tick in the box. The auditor's happy. We can let them loose for another 12 months. Now, as everybody knows, when a bunny goes up on the screen, shit's about to get real. So, this is reality. Holly was fantastic this morning. She gave you a nice intro. I'm not as nice. This really is reality. And this is reality because as our industry, and these slides are available. Take pictures, they're available. Hit me up on LinkedIn, I'll get them out. We need to have this talk, unfortunately, because as an industry, we've failed so many outside of our own industry. I made a point in there earlier on that we have one job. One single job in this industry. If you're coming into this industry, or you are here, or you have got gray in this industry, we have one job only. To protect those around us. Now, very nice gentleman up front that's got a red lanyard on him stood up front and explained exactly how, as a country, we have to protect ourselves. There's some decisions that have to be made that are not nice. That's life. I'll be blunter. We have been at war in the digital realm for the best part of 20 to 30 years. Shit's not getting any easier. We also have to have this talk because as an industry, we prey on those that fail. I come from a country of ambulance chasers. Now, Cyprus, which is where I was born, and not England or Scotland where my parents came from, but I'm based in America land. And good gods do they ambulance chase. This is our industry. How many of you that have been part of a breach within 10 minutes of it just being disclosed, get the vendors going, hey, I could have saved you from that pain and suffering, because I have a solution that's 100% safe and secure. Why do we know that we're screwed? Because those of you that run a pen testing organization or have had organizations don't have enough bandwidth to take on more bloody clients. Because you're all dealing with ransomware. You're all dealing with clients that get their ass handed to them. So why have we failed so badly and so inefficiently in this one? And why do we not still think? Because so many people go, well, isn't everything okay? What's going on? What's happening? Well, there's some fairly simple statistics. Globally. And so take this out of a digital context and put this in a human context. I'm 6'3", I'm large and I'm hairy. If you take 197 days to find me in your house, I pee in the potted plant. I chase the cat around the place. I try to feed it to the dogs. And then, when you found my sorry ass in your house, it takes you another 70 days to get rid of me? Oy vey. This is reality of where we are in the digital realm. 83%, and that's actually a low number, targeted by phishing attacks. Holly said it this morning, and there's been other talks about here, about how from a human perspective we fail. Why? Because we keep buying more fucking technology. We're losing. This one pisses me off. 22 million records. And a record is, it could be a credit card, it could be a social security number, it could be national insurance number, sorry, wrong country. It could be payroll information, any of this stuff. That's a record globally. I'm on stage for what, 30 minutes. In that time, we're going to lose another 500,000 records globally. That sucks. And this one, I'm not yelling at you. I'm going to let him yell at you. 77% of organizations don't have an incident response plan. The shit's not hard. You can download it. I'm pretty sure the British government-y people have got nice defaults. If not, NIST's got a bunch. I was in Boston last week. We ran 3 tabletop exercises inside 45 minutes. And we killed people for shits and giggles while we were doing it. The first one was simple. Hey, let's kill somebody off. Right, what do you do? How do you recover? Next, your cloud went away. How do you recover? Third one, I'll take your computer from you. What are you doing to recover? Simple, easy things. Tabletop exercise, done. 77% don't have an instant response time. This shit ain't that hard to do. Meanwhile, our industry, oh man, we're kicking ass. Like seriously. $6 trillion, give or take a bit globally, is going to be the effect, and yet we are still making money hand over fist. The finance industry, which has been around for several thousand years, has made just over 300 and something odd billionaires. The IT and InfoSec industry has been around for 20, 30, 40 years. We are only several billionaires behind that. So we can't protect people, we spend more money, and we're minting billionaires faster than everybody else. Something's not right. So, there's kind of status about where we're at the moment. Now, as was pointed out, Holly said, AI will save us. Because, according to most of the vendors, it's absolutely. This is how good AI is. So part of my job over in the US is there are companies that come to the US government and the US military and go, hey, we got this fucking great AI thing. And I'm like, challenge accepted. My job's to make adversarial AI. And we did this one. This is a fantastic one. We modified literally a couple of pixels and turned the analysis of a pig into an airliner. So it's quite simple. Adversarial intelligence, you can make pigs fly. I also heard the conversation about chains, so I left this one. This is where it gets interesting as well, because we try to also look at us and do a focus about us. But we tend to, unfortunately, miss the supply chain. We miss the vendors. We miss the third parties. We miss part of a global economy. As an attacker, the chances of me walking up to your front door and going, doof, these days and coming in are pretty limited. I'm going to take you out in your supply chain. Let's face it, toilet rolls brought the entire Western economy to its knees. That isn't hard. I was at a maritime conference a couple of weeks ago, and we literally demonstrated how to turn over an oil. I was out in Saudi in November, and I had three of the Aramco oil tankers up on screen, and we pivoted in from the VSAT systems, gotten in through nav and done some other things, and I'm sitting on basically the ballast control system. And as was pointed out eloquently by my colleague, I'm pretty good at making shit go left. This time I'm like, hey, can I turn it upside down? And they were like, no. I'm like, balls. So I ended up hacking His Excellency's camels instead. That was fun. And so it is all about us. And it's not necessarily about the weakest link, because that is another one of those fallacies. And especially when we blame people, that pisses me off too. This day and age, more likely to be taken out by a supply chain attack than by on that side of it. So what are we doing about it? We have all these challenges, we have all these issues, what are we doing? Well, this is what some people are doing. Now, this is why we have interns, because you get to sacrifice one every now and again. For those of you that like to recognize this, this is that one computer you have in the back of the closet. You don't know what the hell it does, but if you turn it off, the lights in London start to flicker. That's what some people are doing. Other people are doing this, which is working out really well for them. And this is the other one that drives me nuts. We, as an industry, I'll put my hand up. I used to blame my grandmother for things, for crying out loud. We're really good at blaming everybody else. But what we're not good at doing is looking in the mirror. Come on. You're safe. He's sitting down and he doesn't have the microphone on. You good. No apology. You just missed half of it. It's all right. Screw you. We're good at blaming everybody else, and we're not good at taking on ourselves. The other challenge on this one as well, pen testers are going to recognize this one. Yeah. Scope. That conversation that we need to have, not just with ourselves, but with the business and with the organizations, to help them understand what is and what is not in scope. Attacking your development system isn't great. If I leave you production, it's fine less. So we need to change. Pretty obvious, pretty simple. And I look to us as leadership in the industry to go, how do we affect change? And I look to everybody here who's coming into the industry to go, you are the change that we need. So let's start with what do we need to change? That's simple. Let's stop the bullshit. Let's stop fooling ourselves. Let's stop fooling others. And by that, I assume we need to take accountability. When was the last time you sat down with a vendor and a partner and said, hey, when things go wrong, are you right next to me or are you stabbing me in the back? When was the last time we sat down and had a conversation, whether it be pen testing, assessment, accountability, any of that kind of stuff, and said, hey, I will hold myself and I will hold you accountable for this. I'm going to work with you only if I can see change and I can see things fixed. When was the last time we ever held each other accountable? This one's a biggie. Yeah. Oy vey. This is where we have to hold our own industry. The sales, the marketing, the organizations, the CISOs. Because it takes both sides. It isn't just all the vendors' problems. Us, inside the industry, have a problem as well. We all have to come together and realize that whole little 100% safe and secure. And yes, I took most of those off of the vendor website. Got to change some of this. This one's a nice one as well. We're really good at standing up and explaining what the challenges are, but we're not that good at listening. And sitting down, and when the business says what they say, we don't necessarily listen as efficiently or as effectively as we could. We don't take good notes. We don't work with the businesses as well as we could do or we should do. Which is why we have this one. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to use them in that ratio. Military thing, whatever else you want to look at it, consultant thing. Sometimes you do sit up, shut up, and just listen to what everybody else has to say. Says the guy doing all the talking at the front. Just going to point out the irony of that whole fucking thing. And this is part of the reason why. And this comes back to these human conversations a number of people have had them. As an attacker, as an adversary, as somebody who spends half of his life having conversations with how I'm about to take all of your data from you, this is how easy it is. This screen I've put in front of boards, because this is all it takes. Now, the challenge we have with this is from an educational standpoint. How many of you are part of or run or are involved in like the education of new users and awareness training? Anybody? Okay, what is it? Once a year? Once a quarter? How many of you do it once a month or once a week? Now, I live in America land. Okay? In England, we have this thing called football. Played properly with your freaking feet in a circular ball. 45 minutes in each direction? Okay, and you don't really stop for very much apart from those wonderful swan dives. In America land, they play something called football as well. Except it's played with an egg-shaped ball. And a game that should last 1 hour lasts 3 to 4 hours. because they can't concentrate for more than 10 to 15 seconds. So, when you stand up in front of your company and you say, hey, don't click shit, don't send shit, and do this awareness training program, which is probably the same one you did last year, by the way, which you already probably have the answers to, and you do it once a year, and you expect people to remember it for another 364 days, in this country, you might get away with it, but in the US, you're screwed off for like 12 hours. So that whole idea about user education, user training, user awareness, this is not a one and done. This is continual awareness training. We do it at work. We do it basically every couple of weeks. We run something out. And we don't try to fool people. Doing an awareness phishing to try to see where your baseline is an arsehole move. Fooling people is bullshit. Train them, teach them, educate them, work with them, help them understand it in all the various different ways it should be done, and then maybe test them, but tell them you're going to test them. Don't be the arsehole. I missed there's me button. Now, I have a squirrel moment. How are we doing time-wise? I'm in good shape, aren't I? Kind of ish. We've got a squirrel moment. So, this was what I was... Oh, that's me touching the stupid thing. Sorry. This comes back to, so I still do research and I have some fun. I was actually going to do a whole talk on this, but I'm like, no, we're going to have some fun, we're going to mess around with this. So we're doing a squirrel moment. Some of the latest research I've done has been on light bulbs. So years ago, and this comes down to this whole idea of you have no barriers, you have no walls, anything that you have can be breached, broken into, taken, and everything else. This comes down to some very simple things that you need to do as anybody inside an organization, understanding the assets, understanding the data. Because it really comes down to the fact it is not if something happens, it is when something happens. And quite often people are like, oh no, we're immune, we have all these controls. And I'm going to go, no you don't, bullshit, then I'm going to prove it. So light bulbs. I like light bulbs. But years ago, I did a whole bunch of work and a whole bunch of research on light bulbs because we were basically pulling sound off of them. They were really good listening devices. And they were good listening devices because, for the last 10 or 11 years, we've had the iPhone as a listening device, let's face it. Now, years ago, we started looking at using lasers and we looked at sound and we looked at some other things because light bulbs, traditional light bulbs, were really, really fun things. You've got electro-optical sensors, basically a lamp phone type attack on them, and then there's lasers, lights, and glass vibrations. If it's not well known, grab it, do some research on them. They're absolutely fantastic things you can use as a listening device. You have to typically have line of sight to them or any of this kind of stuff. The reason I looked at it is because, well, light bulbs are absolutely everywhere. And I'm like, hey, I need a listening device. So I'm like, how do I get a listening device? How do I prove to a company that I can take them out no matter what? How can I prove to an organization that no matter the controls they have or everything else that they have, I can attack them through different methods? And we'll have that conversation. Now, this is great, but technology's moved on. Technology's moved on to these sodding things. You can't shine a laser at these buggers, and there's lots of them. Lots and lots of them. But the nice thing about them, despite the fact there's all these different ones that you can buy, and they all use relatively common, relatively similar types of technology. Not only do they use those types of technology, but you can buy the damn things, and you can take them to pieces. So for those of you that are looking to do different research and different things out there and don't know how to get started in this industry or want to give a talk, go buy some electronics and take the stuff to pieces. Welcome to Hacking 101. For me, I took light bulbs to pieces. And I'm like, And you take the top left on them, take the light bulb pieces, you basically have this nice internal circuit board. Take a look at the circuit board. There's actually a wireless board that's attached to it. It's a daughter board that's attached to it. You're like, okay, I can take that daughter circuit board to pieces, and I can take a look, and I can see what's on that daughter circuit board. And there's two specific chips on there, and I actually have one of them, I think, in one of the 5159 chip on there. And we did a bunch of research on that one, and a bunch of research on another chip, and said, there's only two places that manufacture those two chips for wireless and for Bluetooth LE and a couple of other things. And we're like, wonder if we can go buy some. So we did. And then we did pin-ins and pin-outs, and we figured out that we could get to the firmware. And I'm like, what else can we do to this thing? And the nice thing about people in manufacturing is they don't want to have to build and buy more things. They can basically cobble everything together. Kind of like source code that you use these days. How many of you write your own code versus how many of you glue code together from all the GitHub labs? Same thing up here. So we figured out the 2 chips that we could actually use to influence Bluetooth and a few other things. Then we realized that there's a recording module because provider number 1 didn't want to have to make 2 different boards. So they made one board that had audio capability and one board that just had the firmware changed differently. So we changed the firmware back for shits and giggles. And then because the firmware provider was like, well, we're in the supply chain, nobody's ever bothered about us, we decided to update their FTP server. No certificate, no secondary authentication, nothing else in place. So there's now some firmware sitting on here with a smiley face built in assembly code. And the smiley face comments out exactly what we can do, which is basically enable audio on every single one of these things. Now, we commented it out. I might have left it in a few places as well. And now it's in manufacturing. So we have the code that actually enables this. And we can replay the attack on this and turn all of the passive light bulbs into active light bulbs. So now we have digital light bulb capabilities. And then manufacturing them. Yay! So now we have to have the conversation about awareness. Now we have to have the conversation about access control and supply chains and attack vectors. As you look at the organizations you're responsible for, and as you look at the organizations that are around you, start looking at where those attack vectors might be. Start looking at the supply chain. Start asking the questions. Take a step back and look at DevSecOps, which, let's face it, is nothing more than collaboration with a fancy new name. And go, how do we work with the development teams so that Chris can't do that in the future? And all the other stuff that goes around that one. All right, scroll moment over. If anybody wants the code for the light bulbs, let me know. Not sure I'll hand it over, but you get the idea. So let's talk about soft skills, because we've talked about the humans, so let's talk about this. We had a little bit of fun in there with all the recruitment stuff, and we talked about communication. We talked about cooperation, coordination, collaboration. These are as, if not more important, than your ability to code and program and pen test and do an assessment. Because as you know, you can go break into shit, but if you can't actually communicate what you've done, how you did it, it's going to be pretty useless. But we also need to take a different approach. How many pen testers do we have in here? All right, this is for you. Let's think about this for a second. You're a company, normal organization. I am a large 6'3" hairy pen tester. I knock on your door. Hello, I'm here to penetrate you. Not only am I here to penetrate you, but I brought Kali, the goddess of death and destruction, with me, and I bought pineapples and ponies. And you're like, motherfucker, where's the lube? This language that we use is not only offensive and abrupt, it is not communicative and it is not collaborative. Why not walk up to the organization and go, hey, we need to have a conversation about cybersecurity. We need to have a conversation about risk, about probability. How about we sit down? I got the tea and biscuits, or coffee apparently is more prevalent in this part of the country, after crying out loud. Why don't we, maybe, play a game? Now, as we all know, when we play a game, somebody's going to get eaten by the group. It's just going to happen. But you do it in a collaborative way. You do it by talking with people. You do it in their language. Somebody made a comment earlier about the amount of freaking acronyms in this industry. Oh, hell yeah. I think it's like second only to the military as far as acronyms go. In fact, we might be getting worse because the sales and marketing people are making new shit up. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that anymore. We are losing this battle and it ain't pretty. We have to figure out how to talk to people more efficiently and more effectively in a way that they understand, not necessarily in a way that we're more comfortable with. We also have to be willing to ask more questions. When the vendor turns up and goes, hey, I've got this really good AI ML model, you're like, huh? I've got 15 questions to ask you. Sit down, shut up, and pin your ears back. If you don't have the question, I have them for you. They're out on LinkedIn somewhere, I'll put them out again. It's the same thing when somebody's like, hey, I got an MSP, I've got this, I got AI, I got any of this. Get more questions out there. Plus, it isn't just our problem. We have to be willing to sit down with the network team, with the firewalls team, with the development teams, with the DBAs. DBAs are a bit weird, they kind of smell, they sit in the corner in the dark. But you know what? Bring them into the light once in a while, give them a bit of a scrub down, they're fine to talk to. The other thing, we have to share. This is a community, okay? You might not openly be allowed to share some of the problems that are going on. That's why Signal was invented. Okay? Talk to the peers of people around you. You can't maybe use circumstance as a suspect, but you know what? You can sure as hell pick up the phone and say, hey, we just ran into an issue with A, B, and C. Do me a favor. I know you're running it. Double check it out and go from there. Okay? Little bit of sneaking net, little bit of conversation between you. This is a community. Collaborate, please. And especially, understand your surroundings. Very much so, that one. This came out of my world. Observe, orient, decide, and act. We have to know and understand our surroundings. We have to understand who and what is around us, internal, external, the whole lot. Our decision architecture needs to be more efficient and more effective, and then we do need to act upon it. And we need to choose pretty wisely. Again, back to those vendor questions. Every vendor is going to tell you this is what their sock and knock looks like. This is reality, let's face it. Remember that whole single pane of glass thing? Yeah, really good, isn't it? OCD overload. And let's face it, are you really going to buy information security from this person? Okay? It's all about the people. Ask more questions. And for crying out loud, we need to stop buying the blinky shit. Okay? We need to stop buying the blinky shit, and here's why. And this is like, again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth. If you're in an organization in a leadership role, you do not have the right to open the checkbook and buy any blinky shit until you figure that out. If you can't tell me what assets you have in the physical and digital world, you don't get to buy any more toys. Because how can you protect what you don't know? How can you honestly stand in front of anybody and say, I've got you covered, when you don't even know what you have? Not only what you have, but where the hell are they and who's using them? Who's got access to them? What the hell are they doing? And what should they be doing? Those might be two very different sets of conversations to have. What's on them? Useful conversation. You don't get to go do other things until you have these basic, simple things sorted. Okay? And by the way, this is where you can go get your new people in. You can bring interns in them and give them pencils and give them paper and get them to go count assets. Those that can count accurately can transition from a pencil to a pen. Okay? And then we now have progress. But you want to figure out how to bring people into this industry, work on this. Hey, I need a bunch of folks. Come in, help me understand where my basics are. And then when you've understood where my basics are, help me understand what the hell's on them or what the heck we do with the darn stuff. This isn't hard to do. Because, well, that's my asset. Actually, that's the old picture, I just realized. The new one looks different to that. I think it's on the front page. My job at Boom is to look after that and make sure that gets off the ground. It also means I have to look after the people and the location and the systems and the avionics, the buildings, etc., 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 let alone the stuff I do inside the Intel community and let alone the other stupid shit that we get involved with. And here's the one for all of you. Yeah, you knew I had to put him up there. This is the challenge, and this is a simple message to take back to the business. As the late Sir Terry, 1,000,000 to 1, crops up 9 times out of 10. Do not be going through an incident, looking through the A through Z or the yellow pages, wondering who you can call upon for your pen tester. So, a closing form on here, because I'm getting out of here in about 2 slides. That one I'm going to ignore, this one I'm going to do. We've all come at this from different directions. Every single one of us, I'll guarantee it. We all look at this through a slightly different lens, but we're sure as hell all in the same boat. Every single one of us. We're in this fight together, and we have a lot of work to do. So, as nice as I can put it, lead from the front. You are all here as part of the community to affect change. Every single one of you has the opportunity to do that. Every single one of you can make that choice. So please do so. And with that, I'm going to shut up and say thank you very much. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor.